stop that. Before I go ahead and answer some of these questions, let me say that I am not an immigration advisor. If you're looking for any specific solution to your problem, I would advise you contact qualified immigration advisor, okay? If you are two people, let's say a husband and a wife, and let's say you're doing the standard, you're expected to pay £5,770. If it's, let's say, a husband, a wife, and a kid, and you're all due to apply for your ILR and you apply, you're going to pay £8,655 if you do the maths. If, let's say, it's a husband, wife, and two kids, 4 members of a family, you're going to pay £11,540. You see how expensive this is? Don't even ask me if it is fair. How many people have this in their bank accounts in this UK? It's not fair. Despite all you have done for the economy, contribution to the community, whatever, you still have to pay this amount to get your indefinite leave to remain. It's not fair. I know some nurses that have large families and they have 2 years to apply for ILR, and they're like, why are we even here? We are going to the US because we're to get the permanent residency in the US immediately as nurses, you know, with your dependents without having to pay any amount. So why should they pay this amount of money if you intend to go to the US and you have 2 years left? There's no need, especially if you have a large family. So another question that's very similar, this person asked, how much did it cost you and how many months pay slip do you have to submit? So it only cost me 3385, okay? That's for priority. And I only had to submit 1 month pay slip. Guys, I have a detailed video about all documents I submitted, every question I answered in the application process. So guys, please watch it, okay? Even if you're not ready, save it somewhere just in case, because all these questions you're asking, I answered them, okay? In fact, they emphasize that only 1 bank statement, okay? And only 1 pay slip, okay? They want the bank statement you are looking for to show the amount on the pay slip you are submitting being deposited in it by your employer. Watch that, just watch that video, you understand. Question number 6. Congratulations, Anel. Did you apply when your 5 years was exactly in October, or applied like a month before the exact 5 years, okay? If you watched that video where I did the application process, you know that you qualify to apply 28 days before the date on your initial visa hits 5 years. And I told you that there's an ILR calculator. I also told you that you should not have spent 180 days or more in any 12 months period outside the UK in that 5 years that you stayed here. Okay, so for those who were home during COVID and could not come back to the UK because borders were closed, airports were closed, you'd have to phone the Home Office for them to help you calculate when your 5 years will be due. So you would have to check, okay? There's an ILR calculator that I used in that video that I did. I'll leave the ILR calculator. You input the details on the date of your first visa that was granted before you came here, and then when you arrived in the UK, and then also when your current visa expires. You answer all these questions and it'll give you a date that you should apply. Question 7 says, does it mean that a child you gave birth to before getting ILR who's more than 18 years old and not in the UK can also apply for the British passport? Nah, you guys. Okay. First of all, to come on a skilled worker visa, the rule is that dependent below the age of 18 years. If you have a dependent who is above 18 and you want to travel with this person, go to the US, because the US allows dependents up to 21 years old. But if your dependent is 18 years or more, you cannot bring them as a dependent on a skilled worker visa, first of all. And you cannot later apply for them for indefinite leave to remain or for settlement as your dependent later. Once you get your ILR, you can bring family members to the UK, but these family members, if they are adults above 18 years, they should meet some requirements. Okay, I'll read some of it to you. You may be eligible for indefinite leave to remain if you have a family visa as an adult dependent relative. So your child who's 18 years in, let's say, Ghana, may be eligible for indefinite leave to remain if you have a family visa as an adult dependent relative. This visa is for people being cared for by a relative in the UK. You must be over 18 and have permission to enter the UK as an adult dependent relative. The relative looking after you must both be settled, have enough money to support you. So usually this is granted to people who can prove that they are totally dependent on this relative in the UK. A lady recently contacted me who was trying and had been denied several times and was not getting the opportunity to bring this. So yes, there's a lot to prove before you can bring a child who's over 18 years to the UK on a family visa as an adult dependent relative. There's a lot to prove, okay? But what if, let's say, you brought the child to the UK as your dependent and the child turns 18. So let's say he was 15 years when he came and after 5 years, he's now 20 years. Obviously, he still qualifies because he was on a dependent visa. Let me read this from the gov.uk website. It says, if you are 18 or over, you must have been a dependent on your parent or your relative's visa before you turned 18. So you should have been on a visa before you turned 18. They must now be settled and have either a family visa as a partner or parent. You must still be living with your parents or relative and not be married and not be in a civil partnership or not be living an independent life. You may also need to pass the Life in the UK test and meet the English language requirements, okay? So if you turn 18 before the ILR as a dependent child, you would have to write the Life in the UK test and take the English language exam, and you still qualify, okay? So that is not a big deal. But those who wanted to bring an 18-year-old who was not even previously on a dependent visa, please, that's family visas. That's different altogether. And that one, you can't even apply if you don't have settled status yet. You have to be either settled or a citizen before your dependents can apply for adult dependent relative visa. Like I said, I'm not an immigration advisor, okay? Question number 8 says, I have a question, please. So I came with a skilled worker visa. I was supposed to be sponsored for 5 years, but I didn't check while coming. The visa was just for 1 year. My company helped me renew, and now I have 5 years. Does it mean I would have to wait for the 6th year to apply for indefinite leave to remain? So basically, this person is trying to say that, so if you renew your visa, the years you spent before you renew the visa, is it counted? Obviously, it's counted. So see, I have done a video on switching visas. If you're on a skilled worker visa, okay, and you renew your visa and you are still on a skilled worker visa, you didn't change the visa category. And it's the same applies when you are switching employers. So like my friend Danny, he got his ILR months ago, I think somewhere in April of this year. He has changed employers like 4 times. He still got the ILR. Changing employers is not a barrier to getting your ILR. I know people who have switched employers like 8 times, but they have their ILR. It's not a problem at all. So far as you meet the requirement, remember, it's the requirements that you are meeting. Do you meet the salary threshold? Have you passed the Life in the UK test? Okay, does your employer, your current employer, do they still need you? You know, all these other things. Have you lived here for 5 years continuously? Have you not, did you not spend more than 180 days in any 12 months period outside? So if you meet all these requirements, it doesn't matter if you've changed employers 10 times, you still qualify, okay? However, there are some scenarios that do not count. For example, if you switch from a dependent visa to a main applicant visa, your years that you spent on your dependent visa will not be counted. So let's say some people come to me and they say, Danielle, I came as a dependent to my husband who's a nurse, and now I've gotten an employer who wants to give me a certificate of sponsorship to apply for a Tier 2 skilled worker visa, and now I'm going to be a main applicant. I'm like, why are you even bothering yourself? Meanwhile, you've probably been on a dependent visa for 3 years. So you have only 2 more years to be on a dependent visa to qualify you to get the indefinite leave to remain. Why are you switching? If you switch, all the years on your dependent visa will not be counted towards your ILR. They'll start counting from the new one that you have, okay? So if you are switching to a different visa category, especially let's say dependent to main, like principal applicant, you will lose the years from the previous visa. So make sure you know all these things, okay? But some combinations of time spent on some visas can be combined. So 39 hours per week means in a month, I work 3 days the first week, 4 days the second week, 3 days the third week, and 4 days the last week of the month, okay? However, after I gave birth and with my husband working as well, we needed to have time for the baby. So we decided that we will each work 3 days a week, okay? So I do only 3 days a week, he does only 3 days a week, and at least we can have 1 day to ourselves as a family. So it used to be a bother to me because I thought, now that I've reduced my hours, what if it affects my ILR? But this is what I learned, okay? So when it comes to ILR, okay, the eligibility is that you should meet the minimum salary threshold, okay, for that particular job that you're doing. So when I checked, okay, it should be the sort of like the ongoing rate for sort of like the lower rank in your profession, or by the shortest occupation code. So currently the entry step points for band 5 is 28,407. So if you're applying for indefinite leave to remain using your nurse as your application, because they'll ask your company even to state the occupation code and state whether you meet the minimum salary threshold. That's the starting salary for your occupation code. I hope I'm making sense. So for nurses, at the moment, this is the minimum you should be earning, 28,407, okay, for nurses. So it depends on the visa you came with, you know, and then also the minimum salary at the moment, okay? So for me, although I reduced my hours to 33 hours per week, I earn 19.74 per hour. And even though I do 33, so let's say I do 33 per week, that means in a month I'm doing 132 hours. So times the 19.74, I'm getting about 2,600 per month. And in my company, you are paid 13 times. So that times 13 is about 33,073. So obviously, I make way more than the entry point, the minimum salary threshold for nurses, okay, which is 28,407. So if you're a care assistant, you have to check, let's say care assistants are regarded as band 3. So check the band 3 entry level amount. That's what she should be earning at least. Okay, so let's say even working your full contracted hours, you are making exactly 28,407, and then you would want to reduce it. Meanwhile, your company does not pay that much. So if you know that reducing it will affect your annual, and this is your annual salary before taxes, before deductions, okay? We're not talking about your take home, we're talking about your annual gross income, okay? So you have to check that as well. If you reduce your hours to 22 hours a week and you are still making way more, you're okay. So although I reduced my hours because of childcare, it was not a bother because I still met the minimum salary threshold, okay? And my company confirmed that. And the last one that I will talk about is people who were asking me that, oh, Nanelle, so does that mean that if you have a YouTube channel, you can't affect your IRR? Guys, that one, the details in the answers to that question, I cannot share it to the whole world. I will make a special video only for channel members. I'm starting a channel membership called Griselda's Gurus or Griselda's Gems, and only if you're a member, that's when you can apply. So maybe after this video, I will leave a link to join the channel membership in the description so that you can be a member. So I would say that just go by your visa requirement. Do not have another job aside your main job. That's all I'll say. Thank you so much for watching. I hope this was helpful to you. If you have any additions to add, please add them in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching. Bye.